Hello chess fans, in this video I'm going to show you something absolutely unique. I've been playing chess now for almost 30 years, but what I'm going to show you in this video is something I have never seen before. It is played in a top grandmaster game at the very strong open tournament in Menorca. It's Dardha from Belgium playing with the white pieces against Alekseenko. Both are very strong grandmasters rated over 2600. If you're interested in learning a very nice new trick, you should watch this video. If you would like to learn something about an opening and get to know a very important novelty, this is also the video to watch. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and I will show you all the ins and outs. So here we go. Dardha played here the move 1d4. Knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3, and black captures the pawn on c4. This is what we call the Vienna opening, very popular opening at the highest level. And there are different ways of playing. The most common move, the sharpest continuation here, is to play the move e4. And there are a lot of sharp lines out there. But in this game, we get to see the move e3, which is a more modest continuation and actually does transpose to well-known lines from the Queen's Gambit accepted. Black goes for the move a6. So the idea is that if you ever take the pawn on c4, black will try to respond with the move b5, kicking the bishop on c4 and later develop the bishop to b7. So therefore white played here first the move a4 to control the b5 square. And after the move b6, now the bishop can capture on c4 without getting hindered by the pawn on the b file. Bishop goes to b7, white castles, black goes for the move c5, and white played the move queen e2. There are different ways of playing here for both sides, but for me it's more about the position we get to see very soon. Black goes for the move queen c7, defending the pawn on c5, moving the queen away from the d file as here the rook goes to d1. This is one of the ideas by moving the queen away from e2. It's not only defending the bishop, but it's also vacating the d1 square for the rook. Black played here the move knight bd7, and this is the moment where things are getting interesting, because black could also have decided earlier to take on d4 and then white would take back with the e-pawn, and then later the bishop can be developed actively, and things are looking quite nice for white. But black decided not to take on d4, and that gives white the possibility to advance the pawn to d5. And this is a very typical idea you get to see in a lot of different 1d4 openings. Black captures the pawn on d5 and white takes with the knight on d5. And now, here it comes. Here you would expect everything just to get swapped on d5. And does it matter how you take first, maybe with a knight or with a bishop, you would expect it will come down to the same. If you take with a knight, and you take back with the bishop, bishop takes d5, rook takes d5. In a position like this, it's more or less balanced. You can say black has a nice pawn, extra pawn on the queen side, white has one extra in the center, objectively speaking, more or less even. But to take first with the knight on d5 is in fact a serious theoretical mistake, because white does not have to take back with a piece. This is a big surprise. Black captures a full piece and white doesn't take it back, and instead played here the move e4. When you see this, you will fall off your chair. You don't really expect your opponent to play such a move. You're a piece up, you're attacking the knight, and the knight can go wherever it wants. But what is white having in mind here? That is the big question. For instance, if you put your knight on b4, which was not played in the game, but I'm going to share my analysis. The knight is pretty safe here on b4. It's protected, you cannot lose the knight. But there is another trick here. As the bishop sacrifices itself on f7 and white is winning. Because if you do take with the king, then there is another beautiful sacrifice with rook takes d7. Check. And after queen takes d7, it's knight e5, and you're going to regain all your material. You win the queen. And even that, it may look still pretty unclear, but black king is pretty much exposed in the center, so things are not looking great. Let's go back for 1 second. After bishop takes f7, of course, you don't have to take the bishop. But if you go king e7, there will follow bishop g5, and you will have to take the bishop anyway, as otherwise there are new ideas. Let's say if you go knight f6, probably there are ideas to go e5 or just move the bishop away. Things are looking pretty bad here for black as well. So the alternative could be to go with your king to d8, but then it's knight to g5 with a totally crushing attack as the knight comes in to e6 with a deadly knight fork. And all white's pieces are just looking at the black king. Black is not going to survive this. So that's one of the main ideas of this brilliant strike with the move e4. But of course, the knight can go to many other squares. If you go to f4 to attack the queen, well, there's bishop takes f7 anyway. And if their king takes, now you take the knight on f4. And if you take with the queen, then the rook can just take on d7. That is just winning. Black could even consider just ignoring the knight and give it back with something like bishop e7, but after e takes d5, you are stuck in a very unpleasant pin. There are ideas like d6 to attack the queen, threaten to capture the bishop will be pinned, so this is also looking really bad. And you understand the difference here is that now, instead of having recaptured with a piece on d5, you do have a pawn on d5 with an open e-file. You can get your bishop out. Fantastic piece play for white. So instead, after the move e4, black played here the move knight knight 5 to f6. And well, it should be said that black was probably totally in shock, because this move e4, it is actually a theoretical novelty. It has been in the 49 positions which were reached in the online database, according to my information. In all these games, white just recaptured on d5. But after e4, well, you think, what is going on? I want to play it safe. You're trying to stick to your extra material, so you play it safe. Knight 5 to f6 is very understandable. But the drawback is that the pawn advances to e5. You're attacking the knight anyway, and you're about to open up the e-file to crush through the center. And here again, there are various options, but let's see if you try to stick to your knight by going to e4, the bishop defends the knight. Then again, it's bishop takes f7, which is the key sacrifice to try to force the king to enter the center. After king takes f7, you go here for the move e6 with another sacrifice. You're threatening the king as well as the knight on d7. If you take with the king, otherwise white captures just the knight, there's knight g5, exploiting the pin on the e-file with a deadly check. Now, for instance, if you try to go away with the king, it's queen f3 check. And after trying to escape to the king side, then you're just getting checkmated very soon. Knight takes e4 with another discovered check, and it will be checkmate. Just as simple. Instead, another possibility is to go back with the king to e7. And now you're not interested in taking on e4, but you're playing for mate. You want to attack the king. So you go for the move queen c4 with ideas to enter either on e6 or f7. That is the main plan. If you take on g5, eliminate white's attacker. There is bishop takes g5 and the bishop comes into the game. So this is all analysis. We are getting back to the game very soon. But I just want to show you what may happen. If you go king e8, it's queen e6 with checkmate to come. If you play knight f6 instead, well, then the rook comes to e1. The king can't go to f7, has to go to the d-file. Now, you just eliminate another defender first. Bishop takes f6, g takes f6, rook ad1. And, well, if you play king c8, well, there is rook e8. And this is going to be a checkmate very, very soon. The alternative is to block with your bishop. Black is 2 bishops up now. But after queen e6, look at the power of the major pieces and the king caught in the middle of the board. Next move will be rook takes d6. And white is going to regain 1 piece, and it's probably going to be checkmate very soon as well. So rather than taking the knight on g5, maybe knight e6 is something you would consider to attack the queen and to guard the f7 square. But typical plan is Another sacrifice just to eliminate the main defender. If you take it with your king, it's queen e6 with checkmate. While in case of taking with the queen instead, well, there's queen f7 check. Now the white queen does get access to this f7 square. King goes back to the 8. Now it's knight e6. The knight comes in. The king has only one square to go. It's king c8, but then it's queen e8 with checkmate. So that means the king can't move. But if black will have to give up the queen, well, then it's just really bad because the bishop will come into the game as well as the rook. The mating attack is still in progress. So that really shows that after this move e5, you can't really do something. You can't really move your knight. If the knight goes anywhere else, you gotta reckon with all these sorts of ideas like either bishop takes f7 or e6. Black's position is falling apart. So black played here the move bishop e7. So he's ready to give back the piece. And if you would take it with pawn takes knight, knight takes f6, okay, black is a pawn up. Things are not so simple. And therefore, rather than capturing the material, this is so instructive, guys. White played here this move, bishop to f4. And that is just a great tactical idea. Because, for instance, well, you're setting up this attack on the queen. One of the ideas is to take the knight on f6 very soon. If you do castle now, try to get your king out of the center, just pawn takes f6, attacking the queen. If queen takes on f4, you take on e7 with an attack on the rook. If the rook goes away, then you take the knight on d7, and instead of being 1 or 2 pieces down, white will be in fact a full piece up. So that's not gonna work. Instead, black, still a piece up, felt here that he needs to give back the piece anyway. Played here this move, knight to d5, probably hoping that everything is getting exchanged, and after something like bishop takes d5, if you do take with the rook, maybe something like queen c6, maybe you're able to set up a blockade on the e6 square, maybe with your queen, maybe with a knight coming in there. Things are not that simple. However, after bishop takes d5, once again, the key move is this move e6. You want to open up the central files towards that king, not giving black the chance to escape. Because if you, well, your queen is under threat. So if you do take the bishop, you take on d7 with check, king takes, rook takes d5. And for just one pawn, you have so many piece activity. This is not something we're going to analyze. This is something you should really rely on your intuition, believing that your pieces are just superior and will eventually be able to catch the enemy's king in the middle of the board. This is a very convincing and easy line, but white had a different idea in mind. Played here rook takes d5, also very spectacular sacrifice. I mean, once you sacrifice one piece, a second piece, you keep looking at all these sort of exciting ideas. And the point is that if you do take with the bishop, white's going to take back, hit the rook, and if the rook goes away, there is even bishop takes f7. This is the recurring theme in this position. The f7 spot is the Achilles heel of black's position. If you do take with the king, it's once again this discovered check, hitting the king and the queen. So, well, you may move your king to f8, but here white is already having one pawn for the exchange, and there are so many good moves. Even after king f8, you can centralize your queen, or you can drop back even with your bishop and take it from there. This is not a lot of fun to play. So, very spectacular opening play by white. Black, not interested in taking the rook, decided here to get its king out of the center, and black, frankly speaking, is just 1 or 2 moves away from obtaining quite some reasonable play. Imagine you can centralize your rooks and try to initiate the exchange of minor pieces or rooks on the d file, for instance. Things are not too bad, but white is having a huge lead in development thanks to the superior placement of this rook of the bishops. White is dominating the center, and that's why, once again, it's all about this move e6. With a discovered attack on the queen and the knight, black is forced to take on f4. But now it's rook takes d7 with a double attack on these 2 bishops. You don't want to give up that material. So here, bishop takes f3 is played. And well, after this, white could consider taking back first, but much stronger is first to take on f7 with check. And obviously there's no nice way to take on f7, because white is gonna take on f7 with check, and after that the bishop will be taken as well. So king h8 played, but here queen takes f3 is played, and white is this is just in great shape. If you do take the bishop on c4, there's just rook takes e7, and white is not just a pawn up, this is a huge pawn. You're going to get your other rook into the game. Maybe queen takes a8 is also a threat, with the idea that if you take back with the rook, there's rook e8, back rank ideas to promote your pawn. So it's a pawn plus a super initiative against the black king. Anyway, after queen takes f3, black decided here to swap queens. Queen takes f3, g takes f3, and now you probably think that the worst is over. Black is moving his bishop to f6, and the pawn on f7 is neutralized. But on the other hand, it also does mean that the rooks, they can just barely move, because otherwise your pawn is going to be promoted very soon. So here, rook to e1. And well, once again, there are a lot of ideas to enter with the rooks, maybe to get a rook to b7 at some point, and win the pawn on b6. The other rook may come in. There are plans to just get two rooks to the e8 square and try to trade off rooks and ensure the promotion of the f pawn. Black tried here to bail out into a very bad endgame with his move b5, aiming for more simplifications. ab5, ab5, bishop takes b5, bishop takes b2. Now the bishop goes to c6 to hit the rook. And well, if you play something like rook b8, probably rook d e7 is the plan, followed by rook e8. My idea is to take the rook on b8 and then try to get the other rook involved, and black is not able to set up a blockade on the f8 square. So here black thought that with the move rook a1, he's able to trade off one pair of rooks, which would ease the defensive task. After rook takes a1, bishop takes a1, I give you this as a final exercise of this video. What do you think is here the killer blow for white? How to finish off the game? I give you 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, and then I will tell you what is the final move of this game. Daniel Dardha played this brilliant idea, rook d8, deflecting the main defender of black's position, the rook on f8. Black, as I said, is unable to maintain grip on that square. After rook takes d8, the brilliant shot is bishop e8, interference motive on the back rank, and there's no piece of black. The bishop on a1, the rook on d8, and the king on h8, they're all out of play and unable to prevent the f-pawn from queening. So that is a very spectacular idea. I hope you really enjoyed this analysis. Maybe it's a very complicated line, but for me, this is so important, guys, that after knight takes d5, knight takes d5, here in this position, white is not obliged to recapture automatically. Just open your eyes always, think about alternatives, and probably this was just very nice home preparation by Daniel Dardha. I think this is also a great contender for the novelty of the year. This move, e4, it opens up the position. All white's pieces are coming alive, and black king never found a safe place to hide. So very impressive play. If you're playing this line yourself as black, I just recommend you next time to take with the bishop first on d5, with the big difference that now e4 doesn't make sense, because you can just swap the bishops, and after bishop takes d5, knight takes d5, rook takes d5, the position is pretty much playable. Please let me know in the comments, what do you think of this beautiful tactical idea? Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more interesting chess content. So stay tuned. I'll be back very soon again. Bye bye.